Dan.
Well, I will make an apology. Welcome to the show, people. Sorry we are late. It is not my fault. It is not Tom's fault. It is not Adrian's fault. I blame the Ivory squad. No, big up Kevin, Sophie. Obviously, they overran, and that was where Lee Judges was. Lee, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you very much. I'm slightly better than what I was yesterday. Slightly better than what I was when I woke up this morning. Had a few rants on my group chats and got it all out of my system. And I feel a little bit better today,
Therapy, mate. Good therapy. That's
what
what
it is. What? Sometimes it is, and you hear it from different perspectives. Sometimes you need a Tom Canton in your life. You know what I mean? That gives you a different...
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't go that far, but,
I might be going a little bit too far, but someone that gives you a different perspective. And actually, you think about it and go, do you know what? He is a twat, but he actually does it right. Do you know what I mean? At times, and does actually say the right.
It's a nice segue into introducing our first guest of the night. Tom, how are you, bro?
I was all right. I was okay. Yeah. No, it's nice. It sets the tone for the evening. He doesn't usually know what he's talking about, and he started off that way. So, it's going well. Going well.
Fair play, man. It should be a good one. And big up Adrian for coming on, man. How are you, bro?
I'm all right. Tired, but I'm all right.
A new
baby,
Adrian.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, little girl, bless her.
Little girl. Congratulations.
She's a nocturnal one.
Massive congrats, man. Massive congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, fair play to you. I don't have that excuse. I'm tired because of the North London derby, not because I have a little one. So fair play to you, man. Listen, boys, let's get into it. I've spoken to Lee this morning. I haven't really spoken to Tom or Adrian too much about this North London derby performance. So that's where we'll start. Adrian, let's start with you, actually, mate. I've got to say, frustrating because of how we conceded the goals is how I would sum up that performance. I think that the performance itself was probably a fair result as far as when your whistle blows. But when you look back at it, you think, actually, we had chances to win this game, man. Jesus fluffed his lines a couple of times. Eddie likewise went through. And if it's a different story of fine margins, if those goals go in, because we'll be 3-0, maybe 3-1 up in the first half. But weren't clinical enough. And again, man, defensively at the Emirates, I just can't ever put a clean sheet result prediction on Arsenal because we're always conceding goals. Now, Tottenham were a different outfit to the Conte and Mourinho style we've seen. I believe they were going to be. I've been watching them for the last few weeks. But I didn't look at Tottenham and go, wow, there's no way of beating these. And I don't think that Tottenham would have looked at Arsenal and gone, wow, there's no way of beating them. So some would say it's a fair result, man. But the frustration yet again comes from the silly mistakes we're making at home, bro.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. The game probably should have been out of sight at half time. We would have taken our chances, and not just small chances, but they are big chances that, the Haalands of the world they take, and City are 3-0 up, aren't they? We for 30 minutes we dominated the game, and you've got to take your chances. And to be fair to Spurs, they were brave yesterday. They were really brave, and when you go back and look at the stats, they had just as amount of shots as we did on goal, and in the end, you look at the possession stats as well. They had more possession than us over the 90 minutes. So, we all don't really like Tottenham, do we, because of the rivalry? But I did wonder how they would play. They played, free-flowing football and tried to match us, and they did. But again, like you say, it boils down to fine margins, and probably should have been going in 3-0 up rather than 1-1 at the time, wasn't it? So, if you want to win leagues, and you've got to have that striker that is going to put the ball back in there. And Jesus done so well, robbing Maddison on the edge, didn't he? And I just don't know what he did. He could have taken another couple of touches, but he's blasted it over. And I think a couple of minutes later, they've gone down the other end and scored, haven't they? So, yeah, I totally agree with everything you're saying, Dan. It's just being clinical in those periods of the game where the Man Cities of the world are, and the game's out of sight. But I don't like bigging up Tottenham. None of us do, but they were brave yesterday, and it's just frustrating, isn't it? Frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Tom, I don't like bigging them up, but they play all right football, man. They're attractive to watch going forward. And I thought Maddison was unreal, man. I really do. You know my thoughts on this player. I'm a big fan of him. And I thought him and Son actually were linking up pretty well. But I wanted to ask you, Tom, about before a ball was kicked, the lineup, because Judges, has made it quite clear about him his opinion on the starting lineup, and I wanted to get yours because we all knew before the game, or there was rumours before the game, that Martinelli was definitely out and that Trossard might be. When I saw that Trossard wasn't about, I thought, and I think I spoke to you on the day before it, and we said, who's it going to be, Nelson or Smith Rowe? It turns out it was Jesus. And then Eddie through the middle. Now, Eddie's not been horrendous this year. I don't really look at him and go, wow. But he's not been horrendous, to be fair to him. He scored some goals. He's given 110%. But it's the Jesus on the left thing is strange because we haven't actually played a Premier League game this season with Jesus starting up top. He's either come on off the bench or whatever. When he finally does against PSV, he was electric. I thought all the front four was electric. So we're all expecting that. We understand that Trossard gets an injury. Jesus gets pushed out and Eddie through the middle. What did you make of that decision? Because I think the other positions were fair, to be honest. What did you make of it, bro?
Yeah, to be honest, like I wasn't looking at that lineup when we started off and thought, oh no, like, oh well, I'm not happy with that. It didn't hit me as like something of real pain or frustration, because Jesus has played in a wide position a lot. And to be honest, a lot of us have been talking about Jesus as being potentially a player that could rotate with Saka, in the future. If we want to rest Saka, Jesus is a good option to rotate on the right-hand side because we don't have much depth there. And he's operated on the left before as well. So I can't say I had too many discrepancies with that decision. Did I pick Nelson? Yes, he was my pick for the starting 11. And in, with the benefit of hindsight, it's very easy to look back on that. I don't think that the lineup is the reason we didn't win this game. I think the lineup it got us where we were in those first 35 minutes where we should have probably been clear and free. If we'd have, Jesus scores that chance we talk about, we're 2-0 up. And I think we go on to win the game relatively comfortably. And that comes from that starting lineup. I think the issue is that recognizing when we weren't doing well, that we needed to make some changes to what we were doing. And the changes that happened weren't constructive. They didn't improve the situation. And Arteta didn't recognise a lot of the issues that were ongoing all the way through to the final moments of the game, including why Eddie Nketiah was still on the field and why Saka was absolutely shattered and done, especially after the tackle that he received. I think it was, who was it that took him out?
The left back maybe should have been booked for it.
Adoji, yeah.
Adoji, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really look at the lineup and think that was a big crux of why we didn't win the game. I think it was ultimately the instances that happened and the mismanagement of the end of the game.
Do you think, though, Tom, just before I come to Lee, that if you're Reece Nelson and Smith Rowe, you're looking, thinking, am I going to get into this side? Now, I understand that's football, right? And I get that at times it's unfair. But when he looks around at the team and he thinks Eddie Nketiah has had a hell of a lot of chances ahead of us, Ramsdale hasn't really done anything wrong and he's been ruthless in that position, but he's not being ruthless in some of the other positions. Now, I'm not saying that Eddie deserves to never be playing for us because he hasn't actually been that bad. But as a left winger, you're taking your best centre forward, and you're putting him on the left, and you're not having the faith in Nelson and Smith Rowe. Are we now looking at those positions and are they thinking Trossard's enemy, Martinelli, Jesus, Nketiah, Saka, Havertz and Vieira? I need another club, Mikel. I'm really sorry, but there's 8 people in front of me. So what am I going to do? Would it be fair for them to do that, Tom? Or is it like, that's just football?
Well, I think there's times that we've called on our manager at Arsenal to be more ruthless and be a little bit more cutthroat of his decision-making, and then we're, being critical of it. But what I would say is that Nketiah has shown a lot more than Smith Rowe in the last year, for me, at Arsenal. You would argue that Smith Rowe's not had the opportunities, but when he has had the opportunities and has played minutes here and there, it's not been inspiring. Whereas Nketiah this season scores, wins penalties, comes off the bench, scores, so gives us the lead against Fulham. And I didn't look at the Smith Rowe cameo against PSV in midweek and think, yeah, he's the guy that I want to come in and start the North London derby. Do you know what I mean? So we can go back and forth about the opportunity. I think if you give Smith Rowe more time, then we can have a greater discussion about this. But this is the North London derby, and to take a risk on Nelson or Smith Rowe, I'm not sure whether or not it's the right. But I would have personally, if in this game, have thrown the Havertz at centre forward as my pick if I was choosing again, because I think that the best we ever saw of Havertz was in that Community Shield game against Man City. And where did he play? At centre forward. And we've competed with Man City in that game for the most than we ever have since we knocked them out the FA Cup back in 2020 across those 90 minutes. So I'm sure we'll come on to Havertz later. But for me, I don't look at that lineup or the decision making in the left wing and think that was a critical error in the selection of North London Derby yesterday. Yesterday.
Fair enough. Let's get a different opinion of that then. Judges, when I met you outside the ground, we obviously did a fan camp together. You said, what the hell was that starting lineup with Jesus going at left and up top with Eddie and Nketiah? And I said to you, what would you have done? And you gave me more than one option. Now, I understand what Tom's saying there in terms of perhaps Eddie and Nketiah doesn't deserve to be binned out the side. But for me, it's not so much the Eddie going through the centre. It's the Jesus on the left thing for me. Now, I'm not saying he's not good there. I've seen him in the middle so much better, in my opinion, than through it. Now, perhaps Eddie could have gone on the left for all I know. I don't know. But I just thought with Jesus wide was a bit of a strange one. But what was your thoughts, mate?
It's funny that Tom said, didn't, but my heart sunk when I see the team sheet. It really did. It really deflated me, like, you know. And my hope was that he was going to play Eddie on the left and Jesus up front. Now, it's got nothing to do with Eddie. It's got nothing that he's not good enough and whatever. The two games that I've watched this season, I'll go back to America. I know it's only pre-season friendly. I watched the game against Man United. We hardly had a shot on target. We didn't look like scoring, Eddie up front. We then go to Barcelona and we rip them apart with Jesus down the middle. And it was a free-flowing, really enjoyable game to watch. Then I've watched 4 or 5 games this season of us being bitty, hardly creating chances, going like that. Then we come to PSV at home. Jesus down the middle. 4 goals, batter them, like creating loads and loads of chances. We go then to this game and we're back to how it was. Hardly any chances created. We didn't really create too many chances, 1 or 2. We scored from a penalty. I don't think we really created anything in the second half. I might be wrong. But I just think that we're a better team, better. Our other players get involved a lot more with Jesus down the middle. It was exciting against PSV because we had to play. Now, they're no mugs, 26 games unbeaten before they went into that game. They're top of the league in their league and all that. But for me, I felt that was a wrong decision. I felt that, you know, we've spoke about this and I actually said before the game, who do you play that? I said I played Nelson up there because he's the most likeable thing to Martinelli. He's more like direct, pacey, and all that. Like, would have gone. Listen, he might have had a crap game and all that. Like, I don't know, but it would have meant that Jesus would have been in that position there. Like, you know. Now Tom's right what he's saying. As poor as what it was, or whatever, we should have probably been 2-0 up at half time. You know what I mean? Like from it all that. But I don't think with Eddie in that middle, we get the free flowing Arsenal that we got last season. And you know, if you remember before the injury up until December, it was some scintillating stuff. I remember the game against Wolves, which was his final game of the season. We're struggling a little bit of Eddie magic, gets the ball across and we score. I think Ødegaard scored. We haven't got that where the players are interchanging and touching it around and all that. And I just feel that we lose something there with Eddie. If he'd have played Eddie on the wide left and Jesus down the middle, I would have got. And that was the thing, you know, when Tom says there about managing a game during the game, he never even changed that in the game. You know, get Eddie out there, see if we can get the control of the game and put Martinelli. I'm not one of these fans. I told you this as well, Dan, when they took him off as criticising because they know more than me about, you know, where he is in injury, fitness wise and things like that. I just felt that it was a poor decision. Did it cost us the game? No, like, you know, if we'd be really honest, and you know, me and Tom have had a conversation about it today. Like, you know, individual mistakes cost us that game, not Arteta. You know, let's get that right before we keep. You know, I will criticise Arteta for the team selection, maybe even a couple of substitutions. You could look at it. We even said earlier on, Tom, didn't we? Like, you know that you know Saka was injured 5 minutes before he come off. Like, you know, he could hardly run back. Like, and in the end, he's actually telling the manager to get him off, which is like, that's horrendous. It's horrendous. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but he will sit there today, and it pains me to watch it. But I've seen that first goal. You know what I mean? Like, yes, Raya makes the error from the word go, but it could have been avoided. You know what I mean? Like, where was all right? Saka gets beaten. Like, you know, listen, in a game of football, a player can get beaten, by the way. You know, that doesn't mean to say that it's his fault because he's got beaten, but he's got beaten. He took a little ricochet. Where's the right back coming out there to help him? Where was Ben White for that? Like, you know what I mean? And then our defenders
All three of our defenders got done by Son.
Well, Ben White should be coming out, and then the other who's in there, and I'm going to put it in there. So Saliba was definitely one. I think Ben White was the other, and I'm saying Declan Rice, off of memory here. They all think the ball's going out and stop. You know what I mean? That is just, these are professional footballers at the highest level doing that. You know what I mean? And this is the thing, as good as we are away from home, I think there's a more emphasis on our defending and whatever, like, you know, we just a little bit lazy. I don't know what the word, do you know what I'm going to say now? I'm sitting there. I don't know how we're going to keep clean sheets because he's changed Gabriel. He's put Partey in there. He's changed the goalkeepers. It's still happening. It's still happening. Mistakes are happening, and I don't blame Mikel for that. Like, you know what I mean? We can blame it a lot on situations there, but for me, you know, the two mistakes cost us, and I'm going to say this as well. I think Spurs had 3 chances in the game. They scored 2 goals, and Raya makes a wonderful save. I can't remember any more than that. Correct me if I'm wrong. We had more chances than them, and we
Richarlison at the end. That was the only other one.
Richarlison at the end. I didn't really see that one. Like, you know what I mean? I had my eyes closed at the time, Tom. You know what I mean? So he might have got a shot off there or whatever. Like, you know. But other than that, you know what I mean? You have to say that's good from them, and you have to give credit. We was a little bit woeful. Their goalkeeper made a fantastic save from Jesus, by the way, very early on as well. Like, you know. So at the end of it, like, you know, a little bit wasteful. At one end and poor at the other again, you know what I mean, in our defending.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, before I come to Adrian, a couple of things. Big up Elliot in the chat. Elliot Roberts says, "Hey Dan, hope all's well from Toronto. We're totally outclassed in the midfield, and it was disheartening to say the least." The other thing I want to say, just quickly, you all know Gooner Russ very, very well. Make sure you go to your TVs. Make sure you smash record on ITV News at 10 tonight because he's on there, man. You don't want to miss it. Big up Gooner Russ. Adrian, let me come to you, bro. Yeah. Make sure you all do that, people. Make sure you do that because Russ is a good.
Chats. We putting him up now, or are we going to go?
Yeah. Why not? Why not? Let's do it, Lee. Go on. Why not, bro?
Well, what's this one here?
This is interesting because I was on a show earlier on my channel, and a lot of the guys were talking about Mikel Arteta. So we might as well come into that, Adrian. And Nketiah and Havertz will get Arteta the sack. There was another question in the chat earlier as well saying, if we had a world-class manager, then they would win honours with this side, but we don't have one. Of course, when results happen like this, they're going to be doubts straight away on the manager. We haven't actually lost, by the way. Didn't actually lose the game, and we haven't lost this season. And that's coming from me, who still has his doubts about Mikel Arteta. But I will say this, that if the in-game management does not improve this season, I am going to start looking at last season and this season and think, has he got better? Because there are times where I don't quite understand what he's doing. Last season against West Ham, it was 2-2 and everyone was laughing off and brought Jorginho on, and everyone thought, bloody hell, that's weird. Then he's done the same thing with this game. Jesus has come off again. I don't quite know why. Eddie Nketiah stayed on for the whole 100 minutes. I don't think he deserved to. I thought he was shocking, to quite polite to how poor I thought he was. So there is some question marks over some of the substitutions, team selections, and the in-game management, Adrian, isn't there? I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, he's. I think he's like. I think we said last year. Last season was outstanding, wasn't it? It's a season that we didn't expect to happen.
Yeah.
And you know, he spent a lot of money in the summer, and this is now his team, isn't it? You know, it's no Wenger's or Unai Emery's team. It's every single player in this squad is Arteta's team now, bar probably one or two. I just think, you know, I think we've got to remember where Arteta is, right? Now, our club 3 years ago, before he came in, was in dire straits. We all know that, right? We agree with that?
Yeah.
I think we've got to remember, he's only 3.5 years into his managerial career here. And he's turned a club round that were basically, everyone was against each other. And, you know, we are back where we want to be. And I think, you know, he has to learn, like we all do, you know, in our jobs or whatever, when we make mistakes. And I hope that he will. I think the Jesus playing on the left-hand side for me, it was strange. But I think what he's done is look back at his Man City career where he actually scored a lot of goals from out wide left. And I think he's tried to maybe emulate that. I think it was, again, I agree, wrong decision to put him out wide left, especially after his performance against PSV up top. But I'm thinking about the game. We're missing a few connections at the moment. For me, I've watched it again. I go back to last year. We're missing Xhaka big time. But the biggest one missed for me is the link up in midfield with Partey not being there as well. Rice has been outstanding for us without a doubt. But it's just that link up play that let us down yesterday. And we control games at the Emirates, don't we? We controlled the game for half hour yesterday. But after that, it was very much a 50-50 game. I just think we are missing. For me, I'm trying to go back last year. And, when Partey plays, we win football matches, and we win football matches a lot more comfortably. And losing Xhaka has been a big miss. And I did say before we came on before the season started, I did say I think first 10 games we're going to be a little bit inconsistent. I think we're going to be a bit behind where we were last year, and I think I've been proven right on that. I do agree with some of the decisions made though from Arteta, but I think he's got enough in the bank for to say he's going to get the sack. It's ridiculous. He's not going to get the sack because of Havertz.
Why do people say that though? Like, you know what I mean?
I don't know. It's thinking about the here and now, isn't it? And where we are as a club.
Don't win a trophy, he's got to be sacked.
Well, it's ridiculous. At the end of the day, he's done wonders for this club, and he's going to make mistakes. And the pressure for him now is massive, isn't it? Because his team, we've come second last year. Probably should have won it, and it's going to be a harder season this year to get anywhere in the top four because the way the teams are playing, the way that they've recruited over the summer. But he'll learn. He's got to learn, and we're all critics at the end of the day. But he's in the hot seat, and he's done more good for this club than any manager has in the last however many years, isn't he? So, but I do agree. Some of the decisions made are baffling. But there's a reason why he's there, and we're sitting here, isn't it?
Yeah, listen, there's definitely, for me, you can criticise a manager and have concerns without wanting him to get the chop. Now, I've said previously before I didn't think he was good enough, and there was times where I did want him out. And of course, last season he did what I never thought he could do and put us in a title race. Now, I don't think we're going to win the league. I actually think we're going to lose it by quite some distance this time because I'm looking at us thinking we've got no chance here compared to what Man City are. But saying that, I do, Lee says, don't win a trophy, sack him. I need to see something because we're 5 years in now. He's had everything that he needs. I kind of need to see something. And I understand there's context, but for me, that we need to be lifting tank end of the season for us to have a successful season, in my opinion.
And also, you need a little bit of luck. And that moves us on to that super chat now. When he went down at Everton, I went, oh no, that's a massive, massive blow for us. Martinelli is a massive, massive player for us.
I love him, man. Yeah,
I think he missed yesterday. Totally missed, unbelievably yesterday. Because let's not have an argument. If we'd be all doing our nut if Arteta would have drop Martinelli and put Jesus out there and put Eddie in the side. Martinelli, it would have been Martinelli, Jesus, and Saka, and I think that would have been. We would have won that game yesterday. I do believe massive loss.
I think we've got to remember as well. I mean, Martin Odegaard was terrible yesterday, and he pulls the strings in midfield. This is why I go back to these connections in midfield with Partey not being there and Xhaka not being there. Everyone was talking. Paul Merson talking about Maddison. Odegaard all day long, and on form you will take Odegaard, but without him if he doesn't play well, the connections with the front three are going to be like it was yesterday. That's
Odegaard, why I think, Adrian, I think Tottenham deserved credit in the midfield yesterday. I thought Basuma was class. I thought Maddison was quality. I didn't think Sarr was all that, but I thought those two were particularly good.
Quite good.
Hard work.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. And then as soon as Rice come off, I thought, whoa, this looks poor. And this is my problem when I've said about the transfer window. Kind of feel like we needed somebody else as well as the replacement for Xhaka. And you can see why. I mean, we are awful without Rice or Partey in that midfield. It's quite embarrassing. So I'm worried about that. I hope they're not out for a long time. I know there was rumours today suggesting that they're all going to be back for the Man City game. So we're going to have to get past Brentford and Bournemouth with it. But Lee...
Listen, this is the pressure though Arteta's going to be under. That's why
I was going to ask you this, man, because he's done for me. This is.
I don't believe that. By the
again,
way.
people
Can you
today
put a bit of clarity on that?
He's not the highest earner. Yeah.
I don't think that he's neither. Like,
No, he's not.
I
I'm telling you,
don't know
he's
about
not
that.
he's
I've
not the
heard
high
that
earner.
I heard that he isn't. Yeah. So.
Yeah, he's
But
not
either
the high
way,
earner.
it was a lot of money, and he's on
He's
a
a
lot of
very
money.
high earner. It's worth saying.
Yeah. So I want to ask you all this actually, because the lads on my pod, sometimes it's good really to hear from them neutrals. Sometimes they're a bit clueless, like, but some of them actually do come out with some good points. And a couple of people said tonight, they said, look, why has Mikel Arteta done this to himself? Why has he gone for the Havertz situation for a sword to fall on? And why has he dropped Ramsdale? And I feel personally like that's a good question to perhaps for us to answer. Was there any need for these two decisions, Tom? Was there any need for Havertz to come in? Was there any need for David Raya to come in? And, you know, a lot of people will say yes because they're good players and they're going to make us stronger. A lot of people would say, I think there was other priority areas, maybe a centre forward or a Declan Rice replacement in midfield, maybe a James Maddison or a Moussa Diaby would have been better for the price of money. So just talk to me about this, because there's genuine questions there about those two decisions, not just the signings.
Goalkeeper, I have absolutely no problem with that at all, because I like Ramsdale a lot. I like him as a player. I like him as a person. I think he's great. But Raya was better than him last season, and Raya has been better than him for the last couple of years. And what you want from a coach and what you want from a club is that if you can get the marginal gains to improve a position, do it. You know, if that means sacrificing a guy that we like and that he's got a cult following, fine. I've got no problem with that, because I can't on one side defend, you know, the idea of signing one player, and then in another area, Arteta signs somebody that he sees and that there's significant evidence of being better than the other option, and bringing him in to try and take us to that next level. Thierry Henry, I think, summed it up perfectly. You know, he's the manager. He makes that choice. If they think that Ramsdale's the goalkeeper that took us to Champions League qualification, great. If he sees Raya as the guy that's going to take us to the title, I can't argue with that at this stage, you know. And what I would say, just briefly before I go on to the Havertz thing, is that I do think there is something going on to the Arsenal fan base, this influence to try and drive this wedge between us around the goalkeeper thing, because it is being talked about. I mean, you know, I've had the opportunity to ask Arteta the question about Ramsdale and Raya, and he didn't want to answer it. And I think that's because maybe he is conscious that the fans are kind of picking sides on this now between Raya and Ramsdale. I think they're both great keepers. That's just my opinion on I think they're both great.
So
We've got two great keepers to choose from, and I think that's a positive. But there's this idea, you see it with Carragher talking about Ramsdale yesterday. You're seeing it with other people like Schmeichel, I think, criticised the decision to drop Ramsdale, bring in Raya. You're starting to see this kind of like these sides being drawn and a wedge being driven between those that want to back the Ramsdale side and those who want to back Raya. And I've fallen into that trap myself this week of kind of getting drawn into the debate about whether Ramsdale should have been dropped or not. And actually, no, the matter of the fact is that we've got two great goalkeepers and we've signed a player to try and push the needle in that position. And I can't criticise the club for trying to improve the quality in a position on the field. So that's
and do you know what, Tom? Like, before you go on to the Havertz thing, do you know why I agree with everything you've said? Last week at Everton, Ramsdale was sat on the bench like this. And, oh my God, look at this. Let's make a story out of this. He's going to Chelsea, him. He's going to Chelsea. Man United want him. This week, Ryan makes a save and he goes,
yeah.
Oh, look at that. That's cringy. The geezer can't win. What's he supposed to do? 1 minute he's sat there with a hump. The next minute he's clapping. And he's a fool in both scenarios.
What I mean about they're trying to influence us, right? There's this, and, you know, and this is coming from me who like does this for a living. Like, I'm in that press lounge, I'm in that press room, and I'm with the people that are trying to do this. And I just think that there is this attempt to try and split us. Sorry, Adrian, I know you want to jump in.
No, it's fine. I carry on. Sorry.
But did you want? Oh, because I want to jump onto Havertz. So if you want to come in on the Ramsdale,
no, it's just Ray didn't play well yesterday. His distribution was poor. He made a mistake for the goal. You know, and the thing is, I know you said about Ray was better last year, but he was in a Brentford team that probably, you know, didn't have the ball as much as Arsenal. But I mean, I don't know the stats. You know a lot more than I do. But I don't know. I don't know what things happen behind the scenes. I don't know, because Arteta is very ruthless, isn't he? I don't know if Ramsdale done about anything there, but I'm not sure we lose that game. We draw that game with Ramsdale in goal yesterday. I don't think I mean, and don't get me wrong, Ray made a great save. But is it a save that I think Ramsdale would have made as well? I think it would have been. You know, it's a difficult one because I spoke with Lee about this yesterday. He's made one great save, but Arteta is very much that your goalkeeper needs to be like an outfield player, isn't it? And Ray, don't get me wrong, he's been good at that, but he hasn't been tested in the two games that he played prior to that. and he's coming into a North London derby, which he's never been involved before, never been involved in that sort of atmosphere, that pressure. And for me, he didn't fulfil, a deserving number one spot for the next game. I think Ramsdale, for me, probably needs to come back in. If Arteta's going to be ruthless and drop Ramsdale because it's a tactical reason and he sees him better, I understand that. However, I mean, you might disagree with me. I don't think he played well yesterday, Raya. And I'm not sure Ramsdale makes that mistake for the goal.
Can I just come in on this? I didn't think Ramsdale done anything wrong, and I'm like I read through Tom on this as well, because I don't think that that Ray is a better goalkeeper. Statistically, he is, but then he's firing half of his shots to Tony when we're firing them to Eddie Nketiah and Saka and Martinelli. Someone made that point on Twitter today, and I thought it was a very, very good one. But the one thing that I will say, which it's done, and I don't think this is good for Arsenal, is there's this massive debate now. Like, everybody's asking questions, doing this, that. I think, I'm going to be really honest about this. What Jamie Carragher said on, and it's been put up on Sky, is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace to say that about a professional footballer lot, because he's clapped, oh, that's a pantomime. It's mocking him. Yeah. And I actually do feel that Arteta has made this happen by that decision. I'm not blaming Arteta for it or whatever. Like, I just think that it's making unnecessary.
Well, it's ridiculous. Look at Aston Villa last year when Leno came in for us because Ramsdale was out. What was he doing on the bench? I know you understand different situation. He wasn't dropped. He was out injured.
Yeah, they was all celebrating together, weren't they? Like, what I mean? So, that's a great point.
And you know what? Jamie Carragher can't talk right, because he was on that. What's that thing that he does with Michael Richards, Champions League and Henri? I can't remember what that show is.
CBS.
CBS. He's on CBS, right, with Peter Schmeichel and Rob Green, and he's going, this is a brilliant thing for Arsenal, having two top quality goalkeepers. Ramsdale's not the best one. David Raya is all right. This is and he's basically saying this is okay. Peter Schmeichel questioned it, said, don't really like this decision. One of them's going to end up unhappy. This ain't going to be long term. By the end of the season, Ramsdale or Raya, one of them would be gone. And Jamie Carragher's going,
it's time for it, yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. No, exactly, right. He's on loan, right? So when you look at it, you think, and now he's having a go in for clapping. Which one is it then, Jamie? What side of the fence are you now?
What can he do there?
Contradicting himself.
Can I just ask this question out there? You know what I mean? And we've all been and probably played football and been benched every now and then or whatever, like, you know what I mean? So what would you do in that scenario? Now, I know what I'd do. So if I was a forward and the forward scores, deep down you're going, oh, but well done, like, you know what I mean? And you've got to do the right thing and all that, like, you know what I mean? And if you go right now and start giving it the old shuffle, the hand shuffle or whatever, and throwing your boots down and all that, what are people going to say? You know what I mean? I just think whatever he does he's wrong. I can't see any wins.
Listen, he's pissed off. And I don't blame him for being pissed off and looking like he did at Everton. He hasn't done anything wrong performance-wise. Yeah, he's had a couple of average games here and there. But I've got to remember, this keeper saved us more than one occasion last season, and and the season before that. Look, I think one thing that just bugged me a little bit about Raya is that he came out on Sky Sports, didn't he? And he said, "Oh, Ramsdale's got to fight for the team." I just think, who are you, Raya? And I know he's been at Brentford, he's been a good goalkeeper, but he hasn't been at the level Ramsdale's been at regarding the games and the pressure he's been under with big football matches. I just think he didn't need to come out on Sky Sports. I think Ramsdale probably got a bit pissed off with that, because it basically said to him that I'm number one now and you've got to fight for your spot. And I get that. You've got to work hard, and Ramsdale's got to step up in training like he did when Leno was in goal, because Leno was benched after 3 games and he came in, didn't he? But for me, Raya did not. There was a big, massive game for him yesterday, and he didn't show for me that he should have replaced Ramsdale. I mean, that's my case on it. I was hoping Raya would have a really good game yesterday, but what disturbed me a little bit is his distribution wasn't great yesterday.
I
agree. The first goal, I reckon Ramsdale tips it over the bar rather than pushes it back out into the field of play. But look, it's nice to have 2 good goalkeepers, but when do you ever see Man City rotating their 2 good goalkeepers? You barely do. It's a position where
Well, it depends now, Adrian, if he is going to
Yeah.
rotate him in terms of I think he will keep one for cups and one for leagues. I don't think he's going to every other week in the league games. I mean, I might be wrong,
Yeah,
but
I
I
agree with
don't. I
that.
don't expect that. I want to come to this super chat next, but just before we do, Lee, just quickly, my thing actually isn't the whole Reyes ahead of Ramsdale. And I'm upset about it. That ain't actually an issue for me. I love Ramsdale, and I don't think he should have happened. But now he has done it. I expect to see consistency with some of the other players in the team. And if I don't see that, that is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
So if we see an Eddie
what we want.
Nketiah with a stinker, or Kai Havertz still keeps playing and he ain't doing much, I expect to see Smith Rowe and Reece Nelson coming in. But if we don't see that, then that's going to start pissing the team off, and it's going to lose the dressing room because they're just going to be confused by it. They're going to be like, so how can he still be anything? So this is the big thing now. Nothing's happened yet.
He has
he's
done
got
with
to be
Havertz, to
consistent.
be
Well,
fair.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
what.
exactly, Tom, and he has, and that needs to keep happening for me.
Kevin
Needs to be
made a great
consistent
point.
now.
Great point on the hybrid squad before I come on. Like, you know what I mean? Let's see if he's ruthless with the centre forward
Absolutely.
one.
That's my point. That's my point.
January. The reason maybe that they weren't ruthless in the summer is because they couldn't be. Right? But there's no excuses in January. If he's available, he is better than Eddie. Right, he comes in because you've done it with the goalkeeper when I don't necessarily think that you should have done that, but you did, right? If it's available and he can get him, only if it's available. Now, like, we're all presuming that it could be Tony, but it could be another forward. It could be another forward out there that he's trying to get. Like, I want to see that ruthlessness now that he has done with the goalkeeper. And the fact of the matter is, we're talking about it also. There was you guys won't remember. Adrian might slightly remember. No, I don't think you will. No, you won't. There was
Come on, Grandad, tell us. Come on.
You going back to 1950 again, or what?
There was a time when John Lukic was in charge of playing in goal at Arsenal.
I do
Very
remember.
good goalkeeper. Won the league.
Nobody wanted Seaman, yeah.
Yeah, and David Seaman come in and took over, and we was a bit like we are now, guys, with the situation. But David Seaman come in and nailed it. And I don't think Ray. I know it's only one game, by the way. He didn't nail it.
Well, at the time, George Graham said that, Lukic
But he did say what you're going to say, yeah.
One of the best goalkeepers in the league. And so he was asked, why did he buy him? And he said, well, because I think David Seaman's the best goalkeeper in the country. Yeah.
And maybe Arteta should have done that.
If Arteta sees Raya as the best goalkeeper available to buy, then that's his justification. But now Raya's got to justify that decision.
Yeah,
Agreed.
and that's the thing. Raya's now got to go and prove why he deserves to have the number one shirt. Let's read these super chats. I'm going to read all three of them at once because they're all very, very similar. Big up all of you for your super chats. I can't because I ain't got control, but you will have to. But we'll do one after the other. So Chaitanya, big up, man. Says one reason we started well last season was because Xhaka was in form. We replaced him with Kai Havertz, who clearly isn't. Arteta's biggest decision. This next one's from Adzi. Says, Lee, what do we think that Edu and Arteta saw in Havertz to pay 65 million? And the last one from Atlantic Zoo, which is Raya and Havertz are bringing toxicity back to the fan base, and it's been awful for the club. They need to work, or it's on Arteta. There's quite a lot there in relation to this. Tom, I'll start with you because you were going to start to talk about Havertz before we'd come back to it. So let's talk about it because, listen, he's Xhaka's replacement, whether you love it or hate it. He's playing in that position most of the time when he is playing for Arsenal, right? I actually am not a fan of Granit Xhaka up until what he did last season. And I do think because he's got not been replaced in terms of Rice, he's now our number 6, and we all thought he was going to be the Xhaka replacement. We are missing him because I don't think Havertz, Smith Rowe, Vieira can do what Xhaka does. Talk to me about Kai Havertz, though, because he gets a lot of stick.
A lot of stick. Look, Dan, and I'm going to be a little bit lighter in my wallet come the end of the season. I'm almost sure of it from the bet that we made at the beginning of the campaign, because I think it's very well aware that I try and look.
This is going to a good cause. That's the main thing.
It is. That's the most important thing. But I try and look, obviously, at the method behind why they make decisions, why a player is being signed. And so when Havertz came in at the start, it was a case of, right, I know what this guy did at Bayer Leverkusen. He's got plenty of goals, got plenty of assists, really exciting. The talent, it was obviously there. And Arteta's felt that he signed a player that he can then extract what we saw with Bayer Leverkusen and do a better job than what Chelsea have done in the years that they've had him. So far, that's not happened. And I have had kind of this talk of patience and talk of giving him time. And I still, to an extent, think that he deserves that because it's still really, really early on in his time at the club. The problem that I've got this week in particular, after this game, is that Spurs have basically been able to close the gap to a point with one signing and losing Kane. By bringing in James Maddison and by losing Kane, and by bringing in a coach, by the way, that has got them playing very good football as well, they've been able to get to a point where they've come to the Emirates and they've played their game and they've taken advantage of some of Arsenal's missteps and lack of talent in terms of the injuries that we've suffered. And Maddison was the key figure in that game for me on Sunday. Like, he stood out above anybody else on the field that in that game. And then at halftime, Arsenal bring on their £65 million. I know that people don't like to focus on the money, but it's the reality that they brought on their £65 million player and he didn't have an impact in the game. And that's been the case all this season. I liked what he did at Palace and I did a whole rewatch on that and saw how integral he was to us winning that game. I liked what he did in the game against PSV. I liked what he did in the Community Shield, as I've already mentioned. But against Fulham was poor. Against Manchester United was very poor. And I just think that when it comes down to the decision to invest in a player that is obviously a project and a revival and a risk, which is the key word with that signing, it is a risk. There is a fair concern for people to have. And I think that people are entitled to be concerned that we decided to opt for that instead of signing a player that was kind of matching where Arsenal were going. As in, you look at last season, we overachieved, I think, what people expected. We were on the rise, and we expected to go in this season with that momentum still going. And instead of going for a player that is like us, on the rise and on the up and in form and doing what they're doing, we instead took that risk and have signed a player that is not that. And I'm sadly looking at Liverpool and what Szoboszlai is doing, and I'm looking at Spurs and what Maddison is doing and thinking, my goodness me, what if we'd signed one of those two and had them in the midfield instead? It's harsh, I know, on Havertz because it's been such a short amount of time, and I think that's important to apply that context. But it is the reality. And what I would say is that I think we'd be better off this season if Granit Xhaka was alongside Declan Rice in the midfield.
100%, mate. 100%. And this is the thing. It's fine if you're going to buy Declan Rice as well as Granit Xhaka because you're upgrading your midfield. But when you're replacing him, he's not like for like. Declan Rice is better than Granit Xhaka, right? But the actual role that that Xhaka had for Arsenal was so important that now we're not seeing it replaced because Matt Partey's now having to play in the number 6. And this is what makes me laugh. I said about Maddison to Arsenal and everyone said, we can't have him. We've got Ødegaard. Okay, well, what happens when Ødegaard gets injured? And who's playing alongside Ødegaard at the moment? Vieira or Havertz? Well, I'm having Maddison over both of them.
I think they could have played together. I don't see where that argument
100%.
You look at the stats of last season, Maddison's putting in more tackles per game than Xhaka. So,
he got about the pitch yesterday, Tom.
Yeah, he worked hard, didn't he?
He put himself about. The one thing I will say about Havertz is still early doors with him at the moment, and I will say this: I felt we done okay yesterday. I don't think, but okay is not good enough, is it? When you're paying £65 million, we need more than okay.
It's not the reason why we drew the game, though.
No, of course not, and that's really important to point out.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's not the reason why we won, Adrian.
Havertz is a lot of fans' scapegoat, isn't it? It was like all my in-laws are all Chelsea, and they were saying the same. They were like, we've had a steal. We've basically got all our money back for him. And for me, well, we all spoke about it, didn't we? Said it is a strange signing. But let's not forget where we haven't lost. We're still we're fifth. The problem is the expectation for Arsenal this year is that we push on and we haven't quite hit top gear at all this season for me. And I'll go back to it. Xhaka is a huge loss, a big loss, but it wasn't that long ago. Everyone wanted him out, So you got to try and hope that. Yeah, but I was as well because I looked at him and thought, what does he do for the team? But different managers have different styles of play, and Xhaka was huge for us. But also you got to remember he'd been with us eight years, And he had one great season. Yeah, and I do agree. We probably should have kept him another one. But Xhaka wanted to go as well. He wanted to get
That's
back.
the thing. When he says, "I want to go," you got to let him go, Adrian. That's the thing. You got to say.
I agree.
Yeah.
But again, it's not just Xhaka's a big loss. But Partey's massive. Look at us last year. The front end of the season, we lose one game to Man United, and who don't play in that game? Partey doesn't play in that game, and then Partey stays fit for. Well, I don't know how many games going forward, but he's instrumental for me.
Do you think though, Partey will come back into the team and then play alongside Rice, or do you think we'll be playing him in a different?
I hope so, because that'll give you that pivot in midfield when we haven't got the ball. Now, if you look at the game yesterday, we didn't control the game at all. When Rice went off, we struggled through the middle. Odegaard didn't play very well because one, he wasn't getting the ball as much as he normally does. Two, Tottenham did not stop running all freaking game. You know what I mean? They made it difficult for us yesterday. They didn't play in midweek. I'm not saying that's an excuse, but the way he's changed, I did not expect them to play like that yesterday. And they came to us and they tried to put us to the sword. And I kind of respect the manager for doing that. Because me and Lou were having this debate before the game. Does he come to us? I think Paul Merson mentioned it, didn't he? Does he come to us and shut up shop a little bit? Or is he brave enough to come and play the game that they've been playing this season and go for it? And he went for it. And they
weren't all gun-ho though, not the gun. They come at us with caution, and I thought they'd done well because they had two sitting midfield players. Well, and that's what maybe Arsenal will go to that route. You know what I mean?
Well, we were hurried yesterday. I thought we were hurried. Look at the ball retention. The ball retention from Tottenham was excellent. We struggled to get out second half, and every time we won the ball, bang, they were on us really quickly. But at the end of the day, when you've got players like Odegaard not playing well, who keeps the ball for us really well, Partey's very good at that as well. And I do believe. I mean, Arteta did mention Partey yesterday a little bit, and I think, he said about the injuries we got. Then he said, especially Thomas being out. I just hope he gets back fit and gets back in there. But
absolutely.
I agree with Havertz. He needs time, but I don't agree with all the criticism he's getting. He's got to go. Blah blah blah.
Also about Havertz.
It's ridiculous to say.
Also, I've got to say about Havertz, which is an important thing, is he hasn't played that many times. He's played in a team that's not been free flying at the moment with Jesus. Let's see what he does when Jesus is in the middle. He didn't play in the PSV game, did he? He was on the bench. Let's see what he plays like with Jesus in up front, Martinelli on one side, Saka on the other. Let's see what he does it, because I remember him in America in the game against Barcelona. I thought he'd done very, very well out there. I know people are going to say it's only a friendly and whatever, but he looked all right out there. So I think at this moment,
the best position. I'm with Tom though. I think the best time he has. I didn't even think he was that great either.
Yeah.
Up top against City, I thought he was okay. I didn't think he was outstanding like some were saying, but I thought he was okay. And that's the only time I've seen him get involved and be really in the game and be a focal point. I don't think he is in that attacking 8 role. It just don't seem to work for him, in my opinion. But we'll see. I wanted to ask you.
He's going to play for a while.
Well, yeah, It seems that way. He's definitely going to play next couple of games, that's for sure. I did miss a super chat. Apologies, Sam. The reason Ramsdale was given only a 3-year extension instead of a 5-year is because Arteta doesn't rate him, and rightly so. Let's put away favouritism. Wow,
that's a lot of rubbish.
Sorry, that's a lot of rubbish. Very brutal. I wanted to come to you, Lee, because Adrian made a really good point. Last season, this time, we had 15 points. We just lost to Man United at Old Trafford. This time round, we got 14 points. And we've been pretty poor in six games. I ain't looked at us once yet and gone, oh, wow, City are going to be devastated. Look how good we are. No, quite the opposite, if I'm honest. City, and I can tell you, City fans are just laughing, going, Christ, you're miles off us, aren't you? So, okay, we might be, but we're only 2 points off. 4 points, isn't it now? So I look at it and I think, that's fair. Tottenham, who, by the way, are looking at things going, oh, look at us. Everybody start looking up. They're on the same points as they were last year under Conte, right? So let's just realise where we're at for a second. It's 6 games in. Tottenham are absolutely loving it and think they're in a title race when they're actually on the same points as they were last season when it went wrong. And we're pretty annoyed and we're only 1 point off of where we were last year. So context as well comes into play for where we are right now. I still think we're going to go up because we have to. Look at the injuries we got. We've got Partey to come back. We've got Trossard, Martinelli. Obviously, Rice is going to come back hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Jesus ain't even played up top on his own yet in the Premier League game. So there's a lot of more things that we're going to see from Arsenal. But I wanted to ask you the question that you asked. If Partey comes back into this side, is he going to play with Declan Rice? And the reason I think the answer is yes, Lee, is because Zinchenko and Jesus are now back. At the start of the season, Zinchenko weren't around, was he? And neither was Timber, if you mentioned, because he got injured, right? So we were playing Ben White in the middle more and Partey at right back because we didn't have an inverted left back, did we? So I think now that Zinchenko is back, who I clearly think Arteta's going to play every game when he's fit, I think that will mean now that Partey will go in the middle with Rice and Ødegaard. But what do you think, bro?
Yeah, I do think, I'd like to see that and think that would happen. I think, listen, when we look at the league table, I don't really go too much in it at the moment, but we've played 4 at home, 2 away. It's a bit imbalance at the moment. Tottenham have gone 4 away games unbeaten, if I'm correct, and only 2 at home. So I think they've drawn twice, obviously, and 1-2. You know what I mean? So listen, from that point of view, we've dropped 4 points at home at the moment. Last season we lost to Man United at this stage, and that was our only points dropped. So, we was winning games at home at this moment in time. Listen, we picked up and added 2 points at Everton because we didn't, 3, because we lost at Everton last season, you know what I mean? And we've dropped 2 against Tottenham, and we've dropped 2 against Fulham. I don't really go too much into all of that, you know what I mean? We're not, and in defence, we've got 6 players out at the moment, right, or 5 players, right? And I'm sorry, but all of them 5 would be playing. Timber would be playing at somewhere along the line, whether it be right back, left back, he'd be moved across and whatever like that. Partey would definitely be playing. Rice would be definitely playing, of course, Martinelli would definitely be playing, and Trossard would be contributing, whether it be starting or coming off the bench, because it's not an 11-game team. It's not 11-man game no more. So that's hard for a lot of teams to take. You know what I mean? Any team to take, take. So I think at the end of the day, we've got to be a little bit patient. But what we've got to do now is get Arteta's got to get Partey back and Rice back, probably for the Manchester City game. And with what we've got to do in our next 2 games, it's more important of just getting over the games. I think we said this earlier on, didn't we, Tom? You know what I mean? Just I don't care how crap we play against Bournemouth. We've just got to win that game.
Yeah,
and go into this.
We've got to beat City, by the way.
And then we've got to beat City. But I think that with Partey, if we have our best team out against City, we've got a chance. We never have our best team out against them. That's one of the things there. And I do think I look at that midfield yesterday, and this is I'm not having a go at Tottenham. Everybody's going, oh, how well Sarr played, how well Basuma played, how well Madison played. They wasn't up against the greatest midfield. Well, half of it they was up against Jorginho and Havertz, or Rice and Vieira, Ødegaard as well. Put that midfield in of Partey, Rice at their peak. They're playing really, really well with Ødegaard. There's not much better in the Premier League than that, you know what I mean? So, and that's the difference. It's important now that we get them back and get them back soon and get them back playing. And the other thing then is, which is just as important, is making sure this bloody Partey stays fit. And this is the problem I had in the summer. I'm a little bit critical of it all. Did we really need to spend £65 million on Havertz when maybe we should have spent 65 or something, a little bit more, to get someone to replace Partey? Because this is continually happening every season. You know what I mean? Partey fit. He's one of the best midfield players in Europe, let alone in the Premier League. But he doesn't stay fit enough, guys. And that is the problem that we've had. And last season, believe it or not, I think he had his best time. But when there was some real big games, he's missing.
Yeah, listen, it's facts. Listen, I want to talk about another couple of things just before we do close. One of them was obviously Wednesday night, which is the Brentford, and how serious we should take that. But before that, Tom, I want to start with you. Ivan Toney is being linked in January. I don't know how heavily. I have no idea. Saw it today. I thought we'd discuss it. I'm a huge fan, as you know. I think he's a top talent. And if I was to pick a Premier League striker that we could realistically go for, he probably would be my number one. right now. Let's set the scene. We get to January. We're in all the competitions. We've gone through the group stages. It's looking really rosy. Man City only a few points behind us, and he walks through the door. That might make a few teams around us go, mate, that's not what we want to see. I think this would be a superb signing. What do you make of it, Tom?
I know what I'm going to say is not going to be so popular, and I don't know whether or not Tony's the guy that closes the gap for us with Man City. I don't know if he's good enough to close the gap with Man City. I just don't know if he is. I think he's a good striker. He scores goals. Scores a lot of penalties, by the way. 20 Premier League goals last season. 6 of those were penalties. So 3 more goals than Jesus got, and he was out for 3 months. He got the same XG as Jesus last season, 13.2, and scored 3 more goals. So is 60 million quid worth a 3-goal improvement on Jesus, who was out for 3 months? I don't know.
Yeah, but as Gooners says, he's better than Eddie. Like this, is that?
No. I'm not going to debate that. That's facts, obviously. Yeah. But the thing is, Lee, is we talk here about why did we invest £65 million in Kai Havertz when we could have done this? I don't want to be having the same conversation about Tony. I don't want to be sitting here going, why did we invest £60 million in a striker that has not raised the level enough? And I just challenge the view if Ivan Toney is raising the level enough for us. Because, Dan, what you have to realise is that if you spend 60 million on Toney, that's the striker you've committed to for the next, not for the next season, for the next 3-4 years. That's who you're committing to being our striker that we have signed as a marquee addition for that, because you've added in with Jesus, you've got rid of Nketiah, Jesus and Toney is going to be the 2. And I just don't think that Toney is the transformative striker that turns Arsenal from a team that challenged City into a side that beat City to the title. I just don't think he's...
All right, cool. So I'm not going to say you're right or wrong because we don't have a clue. He could be absolutely horrendous or he could be great. Well, no, I don't know, do I? Because all I can do is what he's done at Brentford. I can only take that into it. But let me ask you this then, and I'll ask Adrian and Lee this as well. If it ain't him then 65 is going to be potentially a waste. Would you rather wait to the summer and do what? Go for who? That's better than Toney.
I was going to say that too.
That is the question. There. And it's like, do you go to Napoli and say, here's 120 million quid and I want Victor Osimhen? Because I think you're going to have to spend 100 million quid on a striker that's going to, because Haaland only went for the money he went for because he had a release clause. If they were buying Haaland for the amount of money,
about 180 or something.
Yeah, it would have been silly money. You also got to remember that a certain Kylian Mbappe is available next summer. And I know that might sound mad, but Arsenal, if they position themselves, I don't, to be honest, I know people are saying they're expecting us to kind of challenge for the Premier League this season. I agree with you, Dan. I think we're going to be off it this season for the Premier League. But the Champions League is something that I really think is an opportunity for Arsenal this season because it's knockout, it's 2 games, 2 legs, and I think Arsenal are probably 4th favourites to that competition. And if teams start knocking each other out and we don't lose to a team that we don't and shouldn't lose to, there's a chance there. And imagine, just put this up in lights. Arsenal Champions League winners in 2024 and turn to a Kylian Mbappe. I know Adrian's loving it. And turn to Kylian Mbappe and be like, look, we're the Champions League winners. Why don't you come to Arsenal and take us that next level? If Liverpool drop out of things, if they don't get back into top, they're looking good. But, you never know Liverpool because they're hot and cold. They're hot right now. And it's like, I just think, I know it's fanciful in this fantasy world. I don't want to be too hyperbolic, but I do want to respect the fact that I think if Arsenal go for a striker, it's got to be the best of the best that's available. And I don't think Tony's that. So why not be the team that then go for an Osimhen? Why not be the team that finds that next top striker that's going to transform us? It is the question of who. Is Evan Ferguson that? Again, I'm not sure he's going to be that. It's a big risk on an 18-year-old. It's finding that player. Who is going to be that player? I'm interested to see how Gonzalo Ramos gets on at PSG this season. But we should be going to teams like PSG, teams like Napoli, these bigger clubs on the continent and taking their big players and turning us into the big team. We've
not had that opportunity to do that because we've not been where we are for however
and now
long.
We are.
But now we are. No, I agree. I think £60 million for Tony ain't a lot of money, is it? £60 million for any striker is not a lot of money. That doesn't get you world-class strikers anymore, does it?
And it's filling the spot. It's not even necessarily the money, Adrian. It's filling the spot. Like you're saying that Tony is taking the spot of Arsenal's striker.
Yeah, look what he did. Jesus was outstanding in their last Premier League win for Man City, and they brought in Haaland because look where Haaland's taken them. He's world class. But there aren't many big strikers out there. I agree that the Napoli striker is one. Kylian Mbappe, of course. Oh my God, if we got in, that'd be unbelievable.
Yeah.
I can't see that happening, if I'm honest. I think he's off to Real Madrid next year. With Bellingham in there, and he'll go. I think he'll go there. But for the here and now, I feel sorry for Eddie a little bit because he worked so hard for the team. But we had this discussion last year when it comes to the crunch, and he has chances in big games. He isn't putting them away, is he? And we've had, like you said, with Jesus, who was out for 3 months last year. We haven't really seen the best of him yet, and I'm hoping he will fire again this year. But again, we aren't scoring the chances that a big striker would score. So I do believe, come January, we need to see where we're at with our front line.
Can I just say about Eddie, right? And I'm going to stick up for him. Do you imagine if he'd have missed that chance that Jesus missed yesterday?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I'll be honest. I don't think he would have missed it.
No, he gets brushed aside of whatever. It's not just his goal scoring; it's his build-up play. And I'm with this. If for the here and now, maybe it's got to be for the here and now, not the future. Like, you know what I mean? Because there's a little bit of ruthlessness. You know what I mean? I might have Tony for a year and then sell him, like he has done Ramsdale, dump him. Like, you know what I mean? But something better comes along. Like, So. I would actually think that, what I think where everybody's being connected with Tony is because he's done that interview and he turned around and said, I like the way Arsenal play, blah, blah, blah. But we could actually get him, if he is available, we could actually get him for 30 million and Eddie as well, like swap over, like, you know what I mean? It would be a good move for both, I think. I don't know, you know what I mean?
Who's going to own up, by the way? Because I heard it.
I heard it as well. That's why I was laughing, because everyone's now looking at the chat, and I heard that, and I thought, which one of you did that? And now they've all just clocked on. But anyway,
well, it definitely wasn't me.
He's clueless.
I've got my mic off. So.
The ball guy just fired. Like, it wasn't me. As Shaggy says, it wasn't me. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't me.
I heard it, but I heard it ages ago, and obviously the chat's a bit behind. So I just made me laugh. Lee, go on, Tom.
No, because I want you to have your say, because you asked me on it, on Tony. But do you see what I'm saying? Because I'm constantly that guy who gets targeted with comments like, Tom, raise your standards. Arsenal should be going for the absolute biggest and best. Raise your standards, Tom. And I just sit there going, all these people that are telling me to raise my standards are telling me that a guy that scored 3 more non-penalty goals than Jesus, after Jesus was out for 2 months, is the guy that's going to take us to that level. I don't think he is.
So the way I would answer that is in 2 ways. The first way is he scored 19 goals in a Brentford side that I think creates less than Arsenal. So I think that he would score more in an Arsenal shirt. I don't know, but I think he would be the guy that we're talking about, the misses of Jesus and Eddie. I think in some of those positions, I've seen Tony and he doesn't miss. The guy looks ridiculous. I think he's a very well all-rounded striker. I don't think there's much that he can't do. He's definitely an upgrade on Eddie and Nketiah, like we've just mentioned. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason, and as much as I absolutely want to agree that we can go and get Mbappe, Osimhen, and all these guys, we are praying at the moment that we're going to win a Champions League or a Premier League for that to happen. So I can only go on what we are at the moment. So if we say no to Tony and then we finish 4th and trophyless, we're not going to get Mbappe, Osimhen, or Ferguson. So I think right now we have to look at the here and now, not in the future. I've done enough of looking at the future, Tom. We've done it for 15 years, man. I need to know now. So for me, if there's an opportunity to get a better player in January, we should maximise the transfer window and get him. That's how I would answer it, man. And listen, if it doesn't work out, I'll hold that L and I'll say, what the hell's he doing? This was a poor signing. But for me, I would 100% go do it, man. Like 100%. That's how I would best answer it. Look, we've got to wrap up, but I want to come to this very, very quickly because it is a super chat. There's 2 to be fair. Abel was said Mbappe is a prima donna. Avoid. That's certain. top quality player, but he certainly will come with an attitude, that's for sure. And Shaitanya was a nice little segue into a super chat. You're starting 11 versus Brentford for the League Cup. It's funny, boys, because I was talking about this. We just talked about it on the show earlier, and everyone was like, "Oh, Arsenal will play the kids," and I'm like, we haven't actually got much of a choice here. We've got like everybody out. So let me ask the three of you what we see. Adrian, start with you, man. What do you think it's going to be roughly, this team on Wednesday night? Are we going to see a strong team that we saw at the weekend? Is it going to be loads of changes? What's your thoughts, bro?
Well, like I say, we've got 5 players out, haven't we? So the players have got to come in. I expect Smith Rowe to get some minutes and Nelson to get some minutes. But I'm looking at the back line. Who's going to come in for who's there at the moment? I think Tommy Asu will come in at right back. Kivior will come in for either Gabriel or Saliba. I hope it's Saliba, to be fair, as a rest, because he was outstanding yesterday.
He was.
He was my man in the match. A couple of small errors, but he was excellent in the back line. And also, what worries me about playing 3 games in a week is we lost Saliba because of that. He played 3 games in a week, so I'm hoping he gives him a rest on Wednesday. I'm pretty sure he will, actually. Through the middle, Havertz will play because he's not played recently, and also we're down to pretty much bare bones in the middle. Vieira will play, I think. Smith Rowe's got to come in. I think he'll probably rest Odegaard, so I think he might play Smith Rowe in that 10 role. I hope he don't play Saka. He got actually bashed up the other day. He needs a rest, but it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because our squad, we talk about playing the kids. We haven't really got many kids anymore because our squad is so swelled at the moment. We've better players, isn't it? It's not like he's going to change the whole 11. Ramsdale's going to come in, isn't he, for Raya? I don't see massively loads of changes, but most of the changes that are going to come in are enforced, aren't they? So I'm actually intrigued to see what he's going to do. But I hope he does rest our big players. We've got 2 league games without our big players, and then we have got City. And like you say, Rodri's out of the City game. That's a big miss for them. I think we're going to need our big guns back for it. So I'm not too sure how we play it, but are we at home?
No, it's at Brentford.
We're away, so I'm not travelling very far, are we? But I want to see Smith Rowe playing this on Wednesday because he's like the forgotten man. And when he was fit, he was brilliant for us. He scored 12, 13 goals in that season, didn't he? From midfield. And I know he's had injuries, but he's got to get a run. He's a good player, isn't he, Smith Rowe? Yeah, and he needs minutes. So I'm hoping he plays. Yeah,
fair play. Let's come to you two, Lee and Tom, to close. I think this will be the team. Ramsdale, I think, will start in goal. I'm going to go Ben White at right back.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'll go Ben White. Oh, wow. Tommy Asu over Cedric, surely. Wow.
I'd go the weakest team possible, mate.
Yeah, we spoke about this.
I know you don't agree with me, but I don't care about this competition.
I don't care. I do want us to win. I'm going to
go these minutes.
I'm going to go Cedric at right back.
Give him loads of minutes.
Cedric at right back. Tommy Asu and Kivior, right? Maybe Royal Walters coming in. Because our one centre-back's got to play. Probably play Gabriel. But I don't want to lose Gabriel for Wednesday. That's my problem. My midfield will be El Neni, Jorginho, Havertz.
Is El Neni fit?
Yeah, he's on the bench, so I want him to get him fit. He's fit. And my front 3 will be Eddie up top, Wide on the right, Nelson Wide on the left, Smith Rowe.
Who's playing the 10? Havertz.
I just feel Havertz has got to have games. He's got to try and turn it around, you know what I mean?
I'll play Smith Rowe there. Havertz, honest.
That's an interesting team.
The rest, you know what I mean? Like, Cedric's in the squad. You're paying him a lot of money.
But he ain't gonna play at all this year, is he? Let's be honest. He's in the squad because
he shouldn't be there tonight.
No, we try to get rid of him, but again, he's on big.
When Yeri on the bench, he can come on. Like a couple of the young kids coming on. Is he injured?
Nwaneri missed the last under 21s game for injury. Yeah, I don't know if he's out for this. If he's not recovered, but he did miss the last game because of injury. Yeah.
Listen, it's going to be a weaker team because we've got injuries, right? So we know that. If everyone was fit, then we could talk about it. But Ramsdale's going to play. I think it'll be Ben White, Kivior, Gabriel, and Tomiyasu as a back four. That's what I think it'll be. Yeah. In the middle, I think it'll be Jorginho, Smith Rowe, and Havertz. And then the front three will be Nelson, and I think he'll stick with Jesus and Eddie. That's what I think it will be, front three, because I haven't got anyone else. So that's what I think it will be. But listen, who knows? I have no idea. Tom, what do you make of it?
I'll tell you what I'd pick, because I think you're probably right about what he'll go for. Ramsdale in goal.
You're going to pick all the kids.
Ramsdale in goal. Did you see we played the 13-year-olds in the under-18s the other day?
I see that. It's incredible.
He should play. He's in. Bring him in.
13. Wow, that's
yeah, unbelievable.
To be playing at that is incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, he's in. So
yeah, anyway, that is incredible. To be fair.
On a serious note, Cedric at right back. I'd go Tomiyasu, Gabriel, and Kivior. So Cedric, Tomiyasu, Gabriel, Kivior, Jorginho, and Miles Lewis-Skelly in the midfield. Vieira at 10, Nelson on the right, Smith Rowe on the left, and Havertz through the middle.
That's a good shout, Havertz.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I like that, Tom. I like that. Gooner Lee reckons Arteta holding midfielder and Edu in the number 8.
Do it.
Wheelchair comes out.
Probably better than our midfield Saturday, that was, Lee.
Unbelievable. Me and Tom disagree about this. We had a whole WhatsApp chat about it. I said I want the trophy, and Tom says he just doesn't care for an energy drink cup. So
it's just a bonus. Like, does anyone care that Man United won it last season? No one cares. It's become a comedy competition, and it used to be something worth going for, but it's been made into a joke now. And it is.
Oh, I like to win it. I like to get to
Lee, if you can have 5th in the League Cup or 4th, what do you want? Obvious. Oh, sorry. Let's say 6th in the League Cup, because 5th might get you Champions League this season.
5th will get you Champions League this year.
Let's say 6th in the League Cup or 4th.
4th. All day long, because they give you firepower in the transfer window.
Yeah, I would go that light. You know what I mean? I would say
4th.
That,
it's obviously 4th. Like you want a shot at the Champions League. That's what you want. You don't want to
remember.
I get it. You want a shot at winning the Champions League. Yeah,
I just don't feel. All I will say is I don't feel like I think we disrespect how winning trophies is what this sport is about. That's all I'm saying.
But this game helps us. This game helps us, boys. This game helps us by getting players fit for other games. You know what I mean? Like El Neni gets minutes because years ago, they don't have reserve team games no more. You know, so these games are this game's important that we get Jorginho some more. El Neni. Definitely Smith Rowe getting some more minutes. And if we can get through this game, they get more minutes in the next month as well.
I get that. I think the question you ask is hard for me, because I don't think we are coming 5th or 6th this year, and he should be sacked if we do. Let me say that. Yeah, so for me, if we finish below Liverpool and City, then anybody other than that, I'll be saying that was a shambolic season for me. So I don't think that we can not win the League Cup. Like, if we're winning the League Cup, I don't think that means we come 6th. Like, that's what I'm saying. So I think we can still go for it.
Fair enough.
But I like a trophy, man. Listen, we've got to wrap up, otherwise we'll be here all night for that one. Listen, boys and girls, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you do us a favour. Smash the like and subscribe. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the lit chat and the comments and the interaction. Tom Canton, thank you for joining us, my friend. Thank you so much. Harry and Graham weren't about tonight. You usually are with us, but Harry's busy and Graham is away on holiday. So we thought we'd get these two gents to step in. And of course, they've done
a good job, haven't they, Dan?
Great. They can come back, Lee. Do you know what I mean?
They come back, Tom, I mean, more than welcome.
Where can people find you, bro?
You can find me at the Gooner Talk every morning, 8 a.m. And you can find all my written work at football.london.
And I've got to say, it's well worth a listen. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes I listen to it on the way to work. It is better than TalkSport. Bosh.
Yeah, that is facts.
You can listen to it on TalkSport as well.
Yeah, you actually can. Absolutely, you can. So fair play. No, honestly, I love Tom's content, and it's great because sometimes I disagree with it a lot. It makes me think about stuff properly, so it's all good.
Thanks, mate.
Make sure you go follow. Make sure you go follow the Gooner Talk TV, man. And Adrian, bro, thank you so much for jumping on, mate.
Enjoyed.
Make sure you go follow Adrian on all socials. And judges, legend as ever, man. You've got the
Very
control
good, mate.
tonight, man. So you get to see us out.
Oh yeah, and thanks to you, Dan, for another super hosting show as ever. Like
You're welcome,
so
mate.
I will get us out of here. Thank you very much for joining. I think it's my mic that's echoing, by the way.
Oh. And it was usually the other thing as well, wasn't it? Come on, admit it.
Adios. No.